of games so far, just showing how strong he still is.
This is the third time that it has been banned against Fnatic, and it was actually banned 4 times against Gambit last week. So even with the changes to Kassadin, he is still a very high priority pick. I do just want to touch on that Yasuo ban very quickly. We did notice it banned against Nick and Gambit only once last week. And in some of the Yasuo performances you've seen, there have been some very, very good plays and performances. So quite a strong start as far as the mid lane bans are concerned.
Let's have a look at some of the others then. LeBlanc taken away. Another favorite ban, I think we can safely say, against Xpeke, was banned in 2 out of 4 games. Also along with Nidalee there as well. Another champion which a lot of teams don't want to risk Xpeke getting his hands on. Final ban here from Fnatic, actually aimed at Darien, taking Irelia out of the mix. A champion which we've seen Darien on in the past, but not a champion that a lot of teams seem to be prioritizing.
2 wins, 1 loss. 2 games, 1 loss for Darien on that Irelia. The LeBlanc pick is especially important because Peke has a 19 KDA on that champion. Played it twice last week, won 1 game, lost 1 game. I think the support picks would be the obvious ones, potentially a jungler. Lee Sin, that's going to deny it from Diamond, and it's going to allow Cyanide to get a comfort pick for him. It also allows Fnatic, if they really want to give that to Soaz. It is a champion we've seen him run in the past, so that versatility can play into Fnatic's hands.
Final ban Twitch as well, another champion that we've seen picked and banned a lot. Mostly banned though, you see there, 3/4 of the game's over even, and he's been banned away. So on to the picks then, Fnatic going straight for the jungler here, picking up Lee Sin for Cyanide. That of course could in the end go in the lane, but expecting that to thoroughly be a Cyanide pick. That leaves the likes of Jax open here, which Darien of course has had his hands on previously. In fact, in their loss against Alliance, he played at Jax, not to massive success, it has to be said. The 1-9-4, he ended with that one by the end of things, and it seems like Elise may be the choice here for Gambit. We've seen in the last week, or the super week 1 that we've really got to kind of work from, the picks in the jungle were very, how can we say this, 4 jungler orientated. One of them being Evelyn that's banned away, Lee Sin, Elise another one of them, along with Kha'Zix. It's Elise that's taken this time, and actually first pick Lulu for Gambit.
So the priority junglers are still up there. We're still seeing the Lee Sins, the Elises, the Kha'Zixes, which have been played by the likes of Cyanide and Diamond. The move away from Jax is an interesting one because both Fnatic and Gambit lost to Alliance when they were playing Jax. I would love to see how either of these teams handles an opponent Jax in terms of the lanes, in terms of minions, etc. Because Alliance, they just played flawlessly for the opening 8 to 10 minutes. Soaz only had 10 CS by the 8 or 9 minute mark last week. It hasn't come to pass yet because of that safe pick in Lulu. A lot of versatility, a lot of damage late. If that's going to land up in Nick's hands, it means Gambit really need to work as a team. Because if you don't have team play and coordination in team fights with Lulu, you can't win. She's not a hard carry mid laner.
See a 94% pick rate there for Lucian. Pretty much along with Twitch right now, the 2 go-to AD carries. We see that Fnatic have decided, okay, let's get our dual lane sorted out here. Picking up Lucian and also the Morgana, which as you rightly pointed out earlier on, 3 out of 4 games, Yellow Star picked it last week.
Caitlyn Nami is my prediction for Gambit. Only because Genja played 3 games of Lucian last week and 1 single Caitlyn game. Genja does tend to play some oddball champions every now and again, but he does stick to his tried and true. He does stick to his favorites. Last couple of seconds, and it's going to be that Jax at the end of the day. So this is the first time we'll see Edward on Nami this split. It is a different style of champion to the ones he has been playing, but I like the engage and the disengage power that you're going to have from both a Lulu as well as a Nami. In addition to the movement speed that Nami will give Jax, along with the movement speed Lulu will give Jax. As long as Darien is wearing his Swag Lord carry pants,
he always is.
He's got a lot of potential. There is a lot of tools that Gambit can use to get Jax going. The only thing is, it does look to be a sort of all or nothing right now, because if you shut that Jax down, I'm not too terrified of the remaining teamfight power from Gambit.
And just to touch on your point from earlier that both these teams lost to Alliance with Jax last week, funnily enough, both of those games they were up against the Shyvana from Wicked in the top lane. Fnatic opting for that Shyvana here in lane, and I'd say a very safe last pick for the mid lane here as well with Orianna.
So it's safe, almost standard combo from Fnatic. Their composition has, again, got strong engage, strong disengage. What I like is the power that Shyvana and Lee Sin offer you in terms of going in. You've got some strong dive buddies. I'm never enthused when I see an Orianna because it is one of those champions that when the shockwaves are hitting, it is phenomenal. But more often than not, we're not seeing those shockwaves hitting. We're not seeing 3, 4, 5-man decimation shockwaves. But because the rest of the composition from Fnatic is so well-rounded, Shyvana, Lee, Lucian, they can all clean up team fights. A 2-man shockwave can still equal a team fight victory for Fnatic. Last lock-in from Gambit, it is going to be that Caitlyn. We did see a Varus and a Kog'Maw hover, which are Genja specials. He's played both of those champions a lot in the past, but it is Genja being Genja. He's playing a safe, long-range, laning AD carry who can do well in the late game if and when they get there.
Yeah, I think the hover over Kog'Maw, which of course has been popular with Nami over in Korea, for example, a little bit weaker in the early game, which is somewhere where actually Gambit have struggled in the past, giving up first bloods a lot of the time in the spring split in that bottom lane. Going for a bit more safety this time around with the Caitlyn in there, so they know they're up against a difficult opponent. Interested to see how Nick does this week as well, because as we mentioned, his opening game for Gambit was very uneventful. He finished 0-0-0 with Nidalee, which is not something we're really used to seeing at all.
No, it's not. And the remainder of his games were also questionable. Syndra into LeBlanc, he had a difficult time dealing with Curve, but to be fair, everybody did last week. He did also play that Yasuo and Kayle. So we've seen, this is now 5 games, these are 5 different champions for Nick. He needs to rely on the rest of his team for this Lulu pick to work out.
Well, guys, the teams have locked their lineups in, so who do you think's got the advantage? Tweet at LOL Esports with hashtag FNC win or hashtag GMB win, and we'll check in on the results shortly. 83% was the vote for Fnatic from LOLesports.com. I won't say surprised to see that change. I'd be surprised to see a massive swing, though.
I would be surprised to see a massive swing. Considering the comps, if Gambit get off to a pretty good start, I think they've got some very strong tools. The range of Caitlyn should keep her relatively safe, and a Jax that is powered up with Lulu and Nami support can carry. Jaxes can 1v5 without Lulu and Nami support, but that makes it a lot easier. What it does put is a lot of emphasis on team fights. If Gambit are on the same page, they're going to be in trouble.
Well, we're going to find out here as we head into game for the first matchup of Week 2. Fnatic taking on Gambit. Question is, have Gambit improved over the last week? Hell, have Fnatic improved over their first week here, where they finished 2 for 2? Let's not forget, we're on patch 4.8 here today. A smaller patch in the grand scheme of things recently. Some changes that we'll maybe get into later, but let's not forget here that the trinkets, of course, coming up very, very quickly in the game. Not a 4.8 change, but still there.
Yeah, it's something we need to keep track of, because last week in the LCS was the first time that we had seen the 4.7 level 1 invades. In my opinion, Millennium did it better than any other LCS team. They took advantage of the blue trinket to give you that scrying power to do an invade. But what we did see was buff trades. It was pretty rampant and pretty common. And with all of the wards currently available, Fnatic have got a little bit of resources going to this top lane.
So the vote is in then from Twitter. 81% for Fnatic was just 85%. So you guys voting a little bit for Gambit here as we get in towards level 1. And there's the first ward blood of the game being taken down there. There's the sweeping lens coming into play from Yellow Star, which means that Fnatic feeling confident moving forward towards red.
We'll have to see how this pans out for them. Last week there were some invades on blue side with Morgana. If a good Dark Binding can connect, somebody will be in trouble. But this is a very, very good ward from Gambit. It's revealed all of Fnatic, and this should mitigate any threat or potential first bloods, assuming Gambit don't make mistakes. I want to see if Gambit go for a red invade of their own. Assuming Fnatic start Gambit's red, oh, Gambit maybe want to pick a fight, actually. They're going to find Yellow Star. Here they come, Joe.
There goes the binding through. Darian getting locked up with that one. Yellow Star down to half HP. The stun not connecting. His Cyanide jumps in as well. I think that Fnatic just going to vacate the area here. Gambit decide not to chase, but crucially, protect their red buff.
That was actually a very good start for Gambit. They were not afraid of the positioning, and they had the information to work with because of that ward. They knew that they could go in, and it was going to be a safe challenge, so to speak. So Darian burned his teleport very quickly, has got to lane a couple of seconds earlier than Soaz, and in the top lane, Reckless and Yellow Star pushing just a little quicker than Genji and Edward. Let's see how these early level 2s affect the respective lanes.
Darian not really messing around here, playing aggressive as we've been used to in the past years from Darian. He had some interesting moves, let's say, in week 1 here in our Super Week, which has left him with a far from desirable KDA, I think it's safe to call. We'll see how he does here against Soaz, though, who himself has had a lot of pressure on him from the community. We've seen week after week that he's been seemingly down in the dumps here, Soaz needs a good performance, I think, to get himself back on track mentally more than anything.
Both of his Shyvana games on day 3 of Super Week went a long way to helping that out. Once he got his hands on Shyvana towards the end of the week, it really helped him out, really helped the mindset, I think, of Soaz. And it was by far his strongest champion of week 1 of the split. He's also got an advantage because of how aggressive Darian's playing. Darian's running low on mana, which means Soaz can start to turn the trades, assuming he doesn't get caught by a repel. And that was a super early flash.
He saw that one coming, flashing away from things, and rightly so there, because a good cocoon from Diamond could have spelled the end for Soaz. He did have Cyanide just waiting up. He's currently doing the golems there at the side. Won't be spotted moving in, although there is a ward in the tribe, so Cyanide would have to come through the lane here if he wants to catch them out. Either way, Darian has already recalled back home, so he's in no danger. They even spot Cyanide on his way out.
So a second Doran's Blade picked up by Darren. He wants to go aggressive. He's been playing aggressive already for these first few minutes, and Cyanide just arriving a little bit late to the party. We did see the lane swap. I think Fnatic read Gambit pretty well. It looked as though Genji and Edward wanted to go top lane from a very early stage in the game. And once Gambit pushed Fnatic out of their jungle, then Reckless and Yellowstar just stuck around in this top lane. So we do have straight up matchups, but just the reverse to what we would consider standard at this point.
I see a lot of pressure as well, pushing them right up onto that turret, which Reckless doing a good job of so far, but is starting to fall behind Genja a little bit there when it comes to CS. Meanwhile, the junglers both once again headed down towards this bottom lane. Actually, we're going to see Diamond coming in from the wall. Cyanide is waiting inside of the brush. The question is, do they go for this one? Cyanide waiting in there. It's Diamond that will be the focus from them. Cyanide taking a big chunk of damage, as well as Darian just leap strikes away from it. Damage exchange, but no kill.
No, so flash burn from Diamond, that was a very smart play by Cyanide. He waited for the repel from Diamond, which guaranteed if they focus him down, he had one less escape to make use of. So Fnatic with another, pretty good play early on. The flash was good. In this top lane, though, the range of Caitlyn and the fact that Yellowstar Morgana is a reactive support, not necessarily a proactive support, means that Reckless and Yellowstar are always going to be on the back foot. The moment you put Tidecaller's Blessing on Caitlyn's Rage, and you combine that with her headshot passive, that's a lot of free additional damage in the laning phase, which is why Genji's got himself a CS lead this early on.
And when you pushed up those bindings, it's not easy to get through the minion wave, that's for sure, which makes it a bit of a problem. We did see Yellowstar recalling, leaving Reckless alone on this tower, which, as I said before, not having too much of a hard time, but that CS that I talked about before has started to build up now. 46 to 34. Really good start in the duo side of things from Gambit. Diamond being very, very active here in the ganks once again. He's going to have a look for Expect.
I'm very impressed with Diamond this game already. He's had 3 separate gank attempts. Yes, he has had to burn his flash, but he's putting pressure down. They're going to jump on Peke.
Well, pretty much everything missing there in the end, and Peke doing a real good job of returning the majority of that damage there, staying very, very healthy, even hitting level 6 in the process, so he has his shockwave available. Nick not quite level 6 just yet, so once he gets there, he'll have that wild growth to keep him safe. We'll see if Peke decides to go aggressive before that, but I don't think so. Meanwhile, the bubble's coming out, and this is 3 men pushing in there, but with a binding missing. That's probably the end of that one.
That was an incredibly early exhaust from Yellowstar. He burned that before Cyanide was ever in range of the engagement. And just to clarify, why I think Diamond is doing well. He's had multiple ganks. Yes, one of them's failed, but he had a CS advantage over Cyanide of about 6 or 7 up until this point. So he's farming effectively. He's applying pressure on the lanes. And we need to see if we can pick a slightly better time to engage. Maybe once Lulu has more items, more ability power, or once Jax gets maybe a Sheen under his belt if he wants to rush Trinity Force, maybe a Cutlass. That will then give him some more killing power and killing potential. Of course, he also does need to hit that cocoon. It's pretty important.
Yes, definitely landing the skill shot, something that's going to help you out. He's back on the farm path, though. Taking his raid camp right now. As Darian once again will be recalling from that bottom lane. Those normal top laners now up against each other. It's a Vamp Scepter that he picks up on top of his double Doran's Blade. The Chain Vest was picked up by Soaz. pretty standard start from him. He's going to head straight in towards that Sunfire Cape here, and getting the early armor will keep him safer from Darian's harassment.
Sunfire or Random, we do see Darian has teleported top, so he's going to be in the 1v2 lane, taking a lot of poke from Reckless and Yellowstar. Look for the Dark Binding. It's not going to connect onto the tower. Well, it does. They're not going to die. Yeah. That's what I wanted to
after
say.
Jumping up to his trinket ward there as well.
One thing I want to note, Cyanide's coming in for a gank, and if you'll notice, Peke's grabbed himself a sweeping lens as well. I'm anticipating a lot of Fnatic motion into the Gambit jungle. With 2 sweeping lenses, especially one on your mid laner, that is a big signal of we want to respond, we want to counter gank, we want to, counter jungle rather is the word I'm looking for. And it also allows them a little bit more control around the Dragon Pit if they go and use those sweeping lenses together. So 2 of them already on the side of Fnatic.
Going to jump in from that one, binding misses. And just want to comment on the ward there from Diamond, really nicely placed. And both him and Cyanide, I mean, let's be honest, they've played each other so much, possibly even more than any 2 other junglers have gone head-to-head in league history. In fact, the fact is that right now, it's 8.5 minutes in, they've been in the same place when it comes to moving into lanes every single time.
They have been, and we need to see who will find a crack in their opponent's armor sooner. It did look like Cyanide's trying to set something up in the mid lane. It wasn't to be, and he's needed to back off. But one thing to note is Nick is really struggling against Peke. He's 18 CS behind at this point and growing. That is the equivalent of a kill at this stage in the game. And when you're playing a champion like Lulu, who is very desperate to get farm because she needs items to have that same level of impact, it's going to be a difficult position for her. Lulu is one of the key components to keeping Jax or Caitlyn alive in team fights. So we need to keep our eyes on Nick and how he performs.
Funny thing is that swap around from Gambit, taking Jax to the top lane and taking their AD carry support lane, which was actually doing better in the top lane in the 2v2 than Fnatic, has in fact lost in the first tower of the game. It almost brings Reckless even in CS. And actually, that turret in the bottom lane not quite gone down, and Soa's going to dive onto Genji here. Not sure he's quite got the damage to pick himself up a kill. The fact is, though, that Gambit are already doing the Dragon, and Fnatic really need to react to this one. Peke around the side. The Dragon is already fairly low as we see the shot coming through from Genji. That Dragon will go over to Gambit as the first pickup of the game. They're going to try and walk themselves away. He's still got the repel if he really needs it here, Diamond, so not really in any danger. They simply walk out.
So this is Gambit showing how they prioritize a dragon and control of the dragon area of the map more than they do a tower. They lost the top outer turret, but that all stems from the fact that they allowed Darren to teleport there earlier on. First dragon goes to Gambit, they stole away the red buff from Fnatic, and now they're trying to secure their own blue buff. It's all on Peke to make a play with the Shockwave or Cyanide to smite steal this blue buff to turn it in Fnatic's favor. For the time being, that's a great Shockwave.
Shockwave coming in, there's no follow-up damage. Fnatic don't care here. This is simply a map play, stopping them doing the blue buff in one sweep, but also freeing up this middle lane so that the outer turret can be taken down by Lucian and Morgana, and that's going to go quickly. The blue buff may even be stolen away here by Fnatic on the way through, and that is top-notch play from Fnatic.
Very good strategic play. They knew that they had an advantage in that situation thanks to the disengage power of Lee Sin's ultimate, as well as the damage and disengage that a Shockwave is going to offer you. So in a 2 versus 3, 2 versus 4 setup, Fnatic hold Gambit off, prevent them getting their objective, get some very good vision around Gambit's blue buff, and grab their second tower of the game. So in order for Gambit to not fall further behind, they can't run the risk of losing control of their buffs. Because Fnatic are going to set their sights on this bottom turret, I imagine in the next sort of 3 or 4 minutes, it's just going to allow Fnatic to try and invade and get deeper vision. That's not what Gambit wants at this stage.
Fnatic having such a great go on that bottom outer turret as well. Worth noting that they actually kept their outer turret still alive, albeit by probably 1 or 2 auto attacks out of Genji there. Well, they've managed to alleviate that pressure, and you see the map movement from them. Orianna coming round. Lee Sin's going to join the party. That might force Edward and Genji to back away. They do finally have some backup here from Diamond, but that turret is being hammered at.
So the tidal wave is available for Edward. In order for a team fight to happen, I think they would need the teleport from Darian to come into play. Nobody can interrupt them because Soaz is pushing that middle lane up. Now this is what Fnatic want to do. With that sweeper picked up by Peke and the focus on the outer turrets, they're trying to get as much of a lead as possible early because Lulu needs time to scale. Caitlyn needs time to scale. Jax needs time to scale. So Fnatic are in a better position right now. If Fnatic do not grow a significant lead in the next 10 to 15 minutes, the composition of Gambit runs the risk of outscaling them. So Fnatic are playing correctly as their comp determines.
I'm interested to see how Gambit can turn around this. They've not taken a single tower as of yet, done really no damage apart from a few minion shots here to that mid lane turret. We said it before, the bottom lane is incredibly low, so that's an obvious first choice for them as Diamond comes around here, but they've simply not got the presence there with Reckless and Xpeke, Shockwave being up and the Culling even to throw in on top of that one. No real chance of picking up kills there for Gambit. They still, by the way, 13 minutes into this game, have no first blood as of yet, showing how carefully and more strategically than just piling on in for those ganks and the fights that this game is going.
Now this is where Fnatic need to completely grab control of Gambit's jungle. Breaking that inner ring of turrets is actually pretty difficult, especially when teams have fairly reliable wave clear. Caitlyn, Lulu, and Nami have got AoE abilities. Nami's bubble can line up minions, prevent them from landing auto attacks on turrets. And I think if Fnatic do not break the inner line of turrets fairly quickly, you have to be afraid of what Lulu and Jax can do as the game progresses.
Speaking of Jax, Darian is ahead in CS of Soaz now, who his build going a little in a couple of different directions, let's call it. He went for the Vamp Scepter after his Chain Vest, picked himself up a Giant's Belt now as well, and we can see that already he's able to do some decent damage to Darian, who does have a slight advantage over him in terms of XP, but the CS really bang level at this stage.
So if I were Fnatic, I would try to put pressure on Darian. With Dragon coming up in a minute and a half, try force Darian either to go down or blow his teleport. If you can get his teleport, then you've got yourselves a potential second dragon, which is very good. That's a flash!
That's the flash going away. Ultimate used by Morgana. Soaz diving in as well. The bindings landed, but Fnatic already backing away. It was Yellowstar that had the tower aggro, but Fnatic want the inner turret here. They've got 3 men hammering away. Gambit trying to rotate quickly around for this one with Nick coming out of the base, with the rest of the team coming up through their own jungle, but they won't be quick enough. Fnatic pick it up and run off.
That's exactly what Fnatic needs to do. If they can continue getting those inner turrets, forcing Gambit to the back foot, you can then starve Gambit of their buffs and of dragon control. That will allow Fnatic to extend a gold lead to a point where they are very comfortable looking for fights and forcing fights in those situations. It's 2,000 gold with Dragon up in a minute, but we need to keep tabs on Darian's teleport, as Fnatic are going to defend this middle turret. Gambit have yet to take a turret down, despite the bottom turret being like, what, 2 HP or 20 HP, whatever it is.
26, but I didn't check that at all, just a random guess, maybe, possibly. Genji's already pushing the minion wave. Literally, the minion wave will be enough to force that one down, unless, once again, Reckless is the hero and goes to defend. Either way, we've got Dragon coming up here, the more important factor in this game, in 20 seconds. Fnatic already pushing up that mid lane in anticipation of that one. Not much warding down for Gambit right now. They got a pink ward in the Death Brush, which they're not even going to go towards right now because, quite frankly, Fnatic themselves haven't got great vision there.
What I like is the fact that Soaz just backed off a moment or two ago, did go for that Sunfire Cape that you talked about earlier, Joe. It's going to give him split pushing power, and it's going to allow him to stay in those team fights a little longer, continually dealing damage. With Dragon being respawned, Soaz is running towards the pit, which does imply he doesn't need to burn his summoner spell. What that all equates to, if Fnatic win this next fight, then Fnatic can use the teleport of Soaz to push another lane. Look at the minions in the middle. Gambit are losing precious hit points on their inner turrets. Fnatic are going to look for a fight. He has a channel from Darian. We'll see if Cyanide can steal this away. He's gone in.
Already down to less than half HP. Cyanide will kick Darian away from them, stop himself from getting stunned up. It's Soaz that's right there in the middle of the fight. Cyanide has to flash away. The tidal wave will come through, but not really doing too much. There is the Dragon taken by Gambit, while the rest of Fnatic trying to close in for it. Soaz not got the damage, but maybe Xpeke will. He will pick up the kill there onto Darian, and now he's looking for even more. There's 3 of them. Start to track down Nick. He will boost himself away. Gets the shield on. Reckless dashes forward as well. Has he got enough damage here? Doesn't have too much mana. 2 more auto attacks will do it, but the speed of Lulu saves Nick.
At the end of the day, the Dragon Gold goes in favor of Gambit, but that was a very awkward fight. Fnatic did not commit with all of their resources. Peke, Reckless, Yellowstar were skirting around on the outside, and there wasn't much interference from Gambit. The one thing you want to note, keep your eyes on the 4 members of Fnatic. They're slowly committing, but Yellowstar and Reckless are dancing around on the outside. Peke was nowhere to be seen, finally trying to come in. Peke was chasing Edward down. Now, yes, there was a lot of drama between the junglers and the top laners here, but Dragon ends up being secured by Gambit, and finally, Fnatic re-engage, but they're half in, they're half out. That was a little hesitant, I feel, from Fnatic, so it just makes me think their teamfight calling not the strongest. Gambit, I think, a little lucky to get away, only losing one member in that particular trade.
Cyanide tried to get himself in on that Dragon, a player who we've known in the past to be a master of stealing both Dragons and Barons. Seen it time and time again for him here in the LCS, and couldn't quite get it that time. Diamond really on point when it came to smiting down that second Dragon pickup of the game. It leaves us tied in kills at 1-for-1. The gold lead is 1,500 in favor of Fnatic still here, but that's, I mean, 4-0 in towers. That's not a big gold lead after such a massive start in terms of objectives. 2
Dragons and some pretty strong farming from the members of Gambit is helping them out in that regard. What you do need to note is there is now this window of opportunity where Soaz can punish Darien. Soaz has got his teleport up, and he wants to play a split push. They've caught Edward!
Oh, he's going to throw down the tidal wave, but he's dead. Shockwave will actually bring in Diamond as well, but they were looking for that single kill and possibly just back away from this one. Peke using his ball to zone the rest of the Gambit team away there, Diamond included. And Darien, as you said, now may feel a bit of pressure from Soaz. Or not. He may just go usual Darien style, dives in onto it because he's got Diamond coming in, but the cocoon whiffs wide.
Yeah, Diamond's a little bit in the rough this game, not connecting with those cocoons like we've come to expect from him. I do want to highlight the fact that the first upgraded boots on the Fnatic side is currently Captain Boots by Yellowstar. So if there was ever a signal that Fnatic wanted to play the map and wanted to rotate and move around very quickly, those Captain Boots are going to help them get more pressure on the towers quicker. The only scary thing is that also implies Yellowstar is going to be going for Flash Soul Shackle engages, which will be great for his team, but it's going to leave Reckless very, very exposed if that comes to pass.
Yeah, and that leaves then Darien pretty much free reign at the back, unless he's the one that does get banded up at the start of things. He, of course, got that Blade of the Ruin King in. The CS between the top laners very much even. The AD carries have evened out. The big difference sits in the jungle, with Diamond quite far ahead there, about 20 CS, but more in the mid lane. XPK pretty much running wild. He's 1,000 gold overall ahead of Nick.
That's a massive CS advantage. Nick is struggling with this Lulu pick, and I think if you play Orianna correctly, you can use the ball to zone and get more of your auto attack harassed down. Unfortunately, we weren't paying too much attention to that mid lane to see if that was Nick just playing too passive and afraid, or if it was Peke playing well. What it does equate to, once Peke gets that death cap completed, there will not be man waves that he's throwing out as long as he gets the right targets. But like I said, I really like the rest of Fnatic's comp for cleaning up. They've got a lot of champions that can run your opponents down and secure those kills, especially now that Soaz has got that Bilgewater Cutlass as well. So an additional tool of crowd control to keep Gambit under control.
Let's have a look at the map here, because we've seen Yellowstar on the bottom side of the jungle being quite active in terms of clearing out vision here. See there, another ward going over. We've got 1.5 minutes till the Dragon comes up. 3 men from Fnatic pretty much inside and around that blue buff area. They need to be careful. Gambit have a pretty much full team in here. They did, however, force Diamond to smite that blue buff away. Doesn't go to Nick this time.
What I like about Fnatic's push, they were preventing Gambit from getting to that tower very quickly. Had Fnatic had more of the correct members in that mid lane, they could have got more damage on that inner turret. This is the line that Gambit needs to hold. If Gambit can maintain some control of those last 2 inner turrets, it's going to buy them a lot of time to ramp up their champions that need those items and need that gold. But as you can see, Fnatic pushing on multiple fronts. They caught Diamond. I don't know if they're going to go all in for the kill, but they've pushed Gambit away, and now Gambit are going to lose this bottom inner turret.
Yeah,
they're going to be too late.
That's the beauty of this one from Fnatic. Keep a hold of that bottom side of the map. It means that Reckless is safe to push in this bottom lane, and he's already down to half HP before that second minion wave comes through. That's a free turret here. I don't really want to call it a free turret because Fnatic earned it both with vision control and pressure on that bottom side of the map to force Gambit away and stop them from challenging.
The timing was so good. Peke was pushing mid lane, Reckless was pushing bottom lane, and you had Cyanide and Yellowstar in the jungle keeping Gambit's attention. The moment Gambit picked one lane to go to, it allowed Fnatic a left or a right decision to go and push a tower down. So they secure themselves their 5th tower of the game. The scary thing is, with a 4-tower advantage, they're only 2,000 gold up. If Gambit starts securing more of those towers or reply, they should even or overtake Fnatic in total gold. Dragon is respawned and Fnatic at better positioning right now, but they need to rush it down and not get caught by a multi-man wild growth, multi-man counter-strike. Teleport is available and not needed by Darien. So as this time, we'll need a TP in for the fight in camp. There's no hesitation. They clearly want this Dragon. They may trade Dragon in a turret though.
Fnatic are just as decisive here as Gambit. Gambit saying we want Dragon, we're going to take Dragon. Fnatic saying let's play the tower game here. They go straight towards that inner turret in the middle lane. Would be the final inner turret of the game if they can get this one down. Tidal wave coming through. Edward the one right at the front here, but they're focused on the turret right now. Just a couple more hits and it'll go down. There's the culling coming through. Turret is still alive, but just one, maybe two hits here from either player would take that one down. In the end, Fnatic say, you know what, top lane's pushing as well, let's go there.
Yeah, Gambit a little undecided. They were thinking about pushing the middle lane. They've all decided to run back. They're going to arrive very late. All 5 members of Fnatic are on the inhibitor turret. This is so massive for them. Against a team where they're a little afraid to team fight, they grab themselves a turret and just completely control the map. Finally, a cocoon hits from Diamond, but it doesn't matter because the rest of his team can't respond.
Not sure whether Gambit really played that as best they possibly could. They thought they'd force them away from that inner turret. Top lane pushing all the way through, and Fnatic very, very quick to decide. Something that I think has been lacking in a lot of Fnatic's play in recent months. If you look at them from All-Stars, even sometimes in the spring split, and certainly here in the early games of the summer split as well, they seem to have done a lot of work this week because they're more decisive than we've seen them in a long time.
There is a risk though. If Fnatic ever get caught as a 3 or 4 man team, Jax, Lulu, and Nami can hold them in place long enough for Jax to tear them apart. So Fnatic need to be 100% on point with their ward control, which is what we've seen multiple times in Gambit's jungle, and their decision making. Fnatic have always found a way to just squeeze through Gambit as a team and grab the towers they want. A light breath of fresh air will knock down this mid inner turret, and then all of a sudden Gambit now need to redouble their efforts at vision and also not get caught napping, because they really have been. Fnatic have just said, well, we know Gambit's going to go for Dragon, so screw it. Give them Dragon, we'll grab. That's going to be an inner turret and an inhibitor turret for 1 Dragon. That was what Gambit got from this whole deal a few minutes ago.
So it's not going to be coming up, and Fnatic can always challenge for the next Dragon to come in. We see there Xpeke bullying Darien away completely. He's going random in Zoman as his second item after picking up earlier on that Blade of the Ruined King. Other side, we see that Soaz keeping up that trend of kind of half here, half there. Got a Warden's Mail, but also got his Cutlass, so he's going to come out in the end with 3 big items, a Sunfire Cape, the Randuins, and a Blade of the Ruined King a little bit later.
I really like Fnatic's decision-making around the map. We have still yet to see their overall communication level in team fights. It does look like they've caught Diamond.
There goes the shockwave as well. Have they got the damage to finish off? Soaz is going to try and chase into this one. He's already used the Cutlass here, and that will be a good lookup. But Darien's actually in behind them. He's already causing problems, but Reckless joining the party, throws down the Cutlass. They actually kicked him away there from the culling, and now they try and turn this one around. Soaz the first focus, but in the end, Gambit not feeling strong enough. They finally have Genja there with them. But Fnatic have already backed away from danger. The
strongest tools for Gambit revolve around that tidal wave and the wild growth. I think Nick did the right thing. He held onto the wild growth for a long time. The fact that ultimate is available means that Fnatic need to be very wary if they want to continue that extended fight. If Jax gets into 2 or 3 members and knocks them up and slows them down, they're in trouble. Now Genja is on the back foot, flashes away the Dark One. He needed to do that.
Yeah, I think it was waiting to see, am I in range? Is it going to time out there before it hits me? I don't know. I can't risk that one. Flash away. Good move from Genja to stay safe. We're almost half an hour into this game. 2-1 in kills, showing how much more focus is being put here, specifically I think from Fnatic onto getting those towers and getting out quickly than sticking around trying to fight.
That's what I actually appreciate is, oh, Darren's in trouble. Doesn't have his flash either. Does he have a ward to put down? Does have his trinket ward actually, so gonna need to hop away. But what I really like is, even though it's a low kill count, it does mean that it's still been an action-packed game. Fnatic have found moments where they can jump in and punish Gambit. Unfortunately, grab some Baron aggro. I just very quickly want to highlight Genja being forced to blow his flash. Last week, a lot of members of Gambit, Darien had multiple times, Genja multiple times, even Edward, were caught out of position and gave up free kills that they did not need to do. This time around, it only cost Genja his flash. I say it only cost him his flash like it's nonchalant, but if Soaz or Cyanide jump on him, that could cost his life because he doesn't have a flash for a very important team fight at 30 minutes. We'll see if it comes back to haunt him.
See more wards being cleared at the Baron area. Gambit themselves moving in. Keep an eye on that bottom lane as Yellowstar going to get jumped on there. Not too much. Well, there was quite a lot of damage, but nothing really to follow up as Cyanide going right into the middle of the team. Not sure about this one. He's going to fall very, very low. Soaz will come in to try and rescue him. Diamond now there as well. And there is Yellowstar giving him the heal from the Mikhails. And it's Diamond that could be in trouble. Half HP for him. Hard to hit those binding with the Spiderlings there as well. But Gambit able to fend off that attack. We do see on the top lane, though, those minions still pushing in. Fnatic going to push up middle, possibly? No, they're not.
So two things. Number one, Peke was forced away. That was a fight on two fronts, and Peke gave up his life. Secondarily to that, Fnatic only started to pick fights when there was massive minion waves in the bottom and top lane pushing against Gambit's base. Gambit have done a very poor job of controlling the minion waves and forcing Fnatic to defend. You've seen in that previous fight, you know, Cyanide tried to force something. He tried to force an engage and play around the map, but it didn't matter. It didn't come out in his favor. I actually would have liked to have seen Fnatic commit more to the fight and allow Soaz to teleport the bottom lane and get that next inhibitor turret. It didn't work out that way, and a risky moment. 7 towers to 1 at 30 minutes and still only 1,500 gold.
Crazy stuff, and that's going to become a little bit less here as Gambit will claim themselves a dragon for nothing. There was a ward down in the back of the pit from Fnatic, but 4 dragons out of 4 leave them just 500 gold behind. 6 towers down. That is incredibly well done here. I just want to touch on the mid lane again because we were talking earlier about how Peke had farmed himself to a massive lead. That has been brought back with those waves constantly pushing up against Gambit, and Nick has done a great job of bringing himself to almost level there on the CS.
Now this is the point in the game where if Gambit get caught with their pants around their ankles, they will give up an inhibitor. If, however, they have the appropriate vision and do not get out-rotated by Fnatic, they have a very strong team fight composition. We'll see how Gambit plays the Baron dance, because we are in Europe and dancing around Baron is a requirement of every LCS level game. Vision has been in favor of Fnatic for most of the last 6 minutes, and Gambit have done not a great job of countering it. They face-checked previously, Cyanide got caught out. This time around, they're once again just using brute force. Genja is backing off. Why are you backing away? The rest of the team, here come Fnatic.
Yeah, there's a kick out. Darien going to get kicked in towards Yellowstar, who throws his ultimate down. They may get Jax out of the equation here. Tidal Wave comes over, but it's Peke that gives them the kill. That is a big spawn timer now. 40 seconds until Darien can come back in. It gives Fnatic a one-man advantage that may become more. Great Q from Cyanide. Gets him onto Diamond. The slow will keep him in position, but have they got the damage here to finish up? There's a shockwave. That should do it. No,
Wild Growth and Repel.
Wild Growth and Repel coming in there. Gets himself out. Genja will actually pick up Cyanide, and look at Diamond walking away like some kind of 8-legged freak.
Somebody needs to ask Gambit what they were doing. Genja did recall from that mid lane. It just allowed Fnatic to jump on Darien, who was 1v4 in that situation, and they killed him. Very luckily, Fnatic needed to chase for such an extended period of time, and they didn't get anything further. Genja responds to the team fight quickly enough to get a kill, and to grab Gambit's second tower of the game. Now with Darien respawned and no Cyanide, Gambit should clear out the vision in the Baron pit, put their own vision down, and gain control of it. Unfortunately, the emphasis is on recalling and healing and spending some of the gold, but vision and map control is still with Fnatic. Gambit, they need to understand it's not about killing the heroes, it's about playing the map, getting the objectives.
I hate to be the one that brings up All-Star here as well for Fnatic, but chasing kills was something that they did time and time again in Paris, and were really punished for doing so. We saw there again, chasing down Diamond, Wild Growth, Repel, keeping him alive. And we see now that Fnatic actually turning straight towards the Baron. There's vision in there for Gambit, but Fnatic are sticking to it.
Crucially, there's no tidal wave yet. Edward needs to buy some more time. Baron has been shredded down to less than a third. If Darien gets in there with a good counter-strike, that's going to be great. That's what they wanted.
Wild Growth coming in as well. Peke is going to go down here, surely. He does get the shockwave off, but Nick will secure the kill for them. Tidal wave goes through as well, and Fnatic being forced back here as Darien jumps in again. The culling will force Gambit to back away somewhat, but with one man down on a 40-second spawn timer, Gambit the ones now with prime position, on the Baron itself. Fnatic have to challenge for this somehow, or are they just going to give it up?
Cyanide's looking for the steal. He needs to have a perfect smite. Edward is looking for the bubble. Let's see if he can get it.
King of Steals, can he do it again? Q goes through, but he's already dead. They've got the wards over. Gambit get the kill, secure the Baron as well. Really well played. And Fnatic again, gonna be looking back on that one and saying what happened to us. That was a very risky move to start with, and it's cost them.
Fnatic took too long to try and force that objective. At 30 minutes on the clock, the Blade of the Ruined King, as well as that Random Zone, were complete for Darien. He jumped into 4 members, completely aware Wild Growth was going to help them out. Gambit have only got 3 towers, but it's 3 crucial towers as this opened them up onto this middle inhibitor trap. They've caught Yellow Star. Nobody's going to go for it just yet.
No follow through. It's actually going to be Edward, I think, that was tanking up the turret there for a while. Genja also getting a hit from the newly respawned in XPK, but Gambit, with that fresh Baron buff, move through, take themselves the inhibitor turret. Funnily enough, only their 4th turret of the game, and now they're setting up a trap. This could be dangerous. Well, or not. Yellow Star just throwing down his tormented soil. Gambit continue to back away.
So they're going to get back. They should even be able to spend their money and get in place to challenge for Dragon.
They got so much of it as well. Look at that.
Massive amount of cash. 3k gold for Nick. He's got 1,500 more than Peke. This is a very strong swing in power. You know, Gambit's composition was always going to scale. It was always going to do effectively. And Fnatic played the early and the mid game pretty effectively. They got a lot of towers down. They had, I would say, complete map control. But unfortunately, they couldn't punish Gambit hard enough. They only had a 2,000 gold lead, and Gambit could still pick and choose the fights they wanted. Even with a non-ideal team fight earlier, Gambit made it work. They made their composition survive long enough to weaken Fnatic's composition.
Incredible game so far. Still only 8 kills into this 35-minute game up until now. 7-4 Fnatic leading on those towers. They've both gotten an inhibitor turret down a piece. Obviously, Fnatic taking the top inhib turret of Gambit away earlier on. The middle one down after that Baron pick up by Gambit. We've got 30 seconds till Dragon, which, the way this game has gone, you'd think Gambit will be the ones in position from that one, but Fnatic could do with that bit of a boost. But is it worth it? This is a Baroned up Gambit.
So at this point in time, if Fnatic get Dragon, Gambit should be happy to put more pressure on the map. The next big team fight can and most likely will determine the victor of the game. With an exposed inhibitor, if anyone loses quite heavily, that's it. You will lose your base. Fnatic need to catch Gambit out of position. Fnatic needs to catch multiple members of Gambit defending, or for example in this scenario, get them under a tower with only 2 or 3 members of the team alive. Gambit grab their 5th tower of the game, and you see they're still putting pressure on the rest of Gambit barreling down mid lane. This could be so scary. If Fnatic encompass and catch Gambit, they could get an inhibitor.
Well, the 3 trying to run away from this one. They've got Nami and Lulu, 2 champions that's going to speed them out there if needed. And we see the inner turret in that top lane going down, and Fnatic have dawdled around somewhat here. They're going to now try to recall to stop that top lane push. They need to be real quick. This is a Jax we're talking about who's going to just hammer through those turrets without too many problems. He's got Diamond there for backup as well. Don't think they're going to get it unless Darien keeps on those swag pants. He does it. He's going to take down the inner turret and jumps away to Diamond. Is it to safety though? We're going to find out as Soas will dive in there. Cyanide is also around, but here comes Nick from the side. And no, they don't chase out. Really well done by Gambit.
Very good strategic decision. Gambit measured up the cost of Dragon versus those towers, got themselves 3 towers in response to only 1. And in a matter of minutes, 6 minutes time, Gambit have swung from being 2,000 gold down to being 6,000 gold up, with 2 inhibitors exposed. Now, Fnatic couldn't win straight-up team fights 10 minutes ago, and they're terrified of starting a fight now. Inhibitors should be given up, and if Fnatic go in, this could turn bad.
There we go. Cyanide will actually dive into the middle of the team, but it's gone wrong for him. He's going to go down to Genja, and now Darien here on the front foot as well. The shockwave not hitting anyone, not hitting a single soul. The inhibitor will go down. They're using everything they've got here to force Gambit to back away, but the inhib's down, and the top inhib's open as well.
Yeah, Gambit can continue this pressure. They've got so many tools to lock members of Fnatic up, hold them in place long enough. That is 2 inhibitors off of 1 team fight. Gambit's comp had hit the power spike it needed, and there's very little Fnatic can do without Gambit making a mistake. That is a very strong fight. I think, you know, Soas, he tried to force a play looking for Genja, and Genja actually flashed over. We were looking for the Dragon's Rage kick there from Cyanide. It just wasn't ideal. He ends up helping Darien and saying, hey, there you go, there's the rest of my team, bro. have a hand, and unfortunately that shockwave, that's what we talked about. You have to hit multiple members. Unfortunately, it's too late in the game for it to matter, because even if it had hit multiple members, the wild growth was still there, the Glitter Lancers slowed the rest of Fnatic down, and they'd lost one of their major frontline champions in Cyanide.
There was no follow-up, even if it had probably caught all of the team in that one. Just want to touch on items here again, because Darian now has a Trinity Force on top of that Blade of the Rune King and the Randuin's Omen from earlier on in the matchup, so looking incredibly deadly. Mid lane as well, Nick with the Death Cap, with Lich Bane, with a Void Staff on top of his Athene's first item. Also, we've seen it, the wild growth keeps pretty much anyone alive who jumps in there, or who doesn't get jumped in there, who gets jumped on. Although we saw their Cyanide had a perfect opportunity to try and kick someone in. Gambit controlled him completely, and in the end it was a panic kick, I think, more than anything, that sent Darian into the rest of the team. Very
good play from Gambit, simply having a comp that they gave up, I think, calculated towers early, the outer turrets. They then got pushed around for the inner turrets. Those were mistakes. They were caught unawares, and now they've just hit this power spike that their comp is simply superior. Because of the protection that Nami and Lulu offer Jax, you haven't felt that Darian is at threat of really going down for the last few team fights. Super minions barreling top and middle, Gambit playing this by the numbers, just getting control of the map, and I think they'll siege up this bottom tower either until Baron respawns in a minute, or until super minions pull a team member away. Gambit don't want to run the risk of tower diving. There is still enough damage from Fnatic to be a threat, but they can use the map to their advantage, and I don't know if they'll go for the tower. I think maybe a peel away for Baron might be the smarter option.
See, though, those super minions now barreling down the top lane. Soaz is trying to deal with them in the mid lane. Basically, it's a 4 versus 5 if Gambit start fighting right now or not, because Darian's just backed away. But either way, Peke here, you have to feel he's going to be the key man. He has to hit a massive shockwave if Fnatic are going to be able to hold on to this one. And with Darian now pressuring on the top side of the map as well, Soaz can't deal with him.
Super importantly, there are multiple super minions alive. Their passives and the damage amplification with other minions stack. So this is such a smart play from Darian. Force Soaz to tank up those turrets. Now Soaz needs to go back and heal. There's more super minions in the mid lane, and in the 4v, what is 3 now, that's great damage on Yellow Star. So Gambit are playing this one very effectively. Darian may even get some auto attacks on this Nexus turret, although not now that there's 2 more members of Fnatic pulling away.
Yeah, pulled 3 members away. Xpeke and Cyanide, the only 2 on the turret. We see that the wave clear from them good enough right now to actually keep Gambit away somewhat, but they're just going to push around towards the mid lane by the looks of things, or maybe not, maybe even further north to the Baron, which has now spawned in. This should be an easy one for them, with Fnatic having to defend all out to keep their base up.
Yeah, the amount of damage that Fnatic were taking, they can't run the risk of committing a full 5-man team without running the risk of letting those super minions overrun them. Remember, Darian has teleport, so if there's an opportunity for a backdoor, hey, it could be used. This should go down before Fnatic even get in range, and truthfully, it is what we were expecting. It is what we were anticipating from that bottom lane siege. The only question is now, how did Gambit break the defense of Fnatic? And I think it's going to be on this next spawn of inhibitors. I think at this point in time, inhibitors are getting very close to respawning. Another 15 to 20 seconds. First one is already up. So Gambit can just redo that double inhibitor team fight, completely get control of the game, and at this stage, death time is maybe so high that Gambit can push down the next turret.
Yellow Star's actually going to go aggressive and try and start something of his own here. We'll be able to stun out Edward, but a great tidal wave comes away, and they pick up Cyanide in the process. Peke going to get bubbled to try and get onto him. They're not quick enough, though. Look at this. This is the tankiest man on the Fnatic team as Darian dives in. Wild Growth, Shockwave comes in, but it's all too late here. Gambit running through Fnatic. Reckless and Soaz, the only 2 men left alive. This should be game.
Fnatic tried to make a play, but it was too little, and it was too late. The Dragon's Rage wasn't even used by Cyanide. He got killed so quickly and took so much damage. And Peke tried to channel that Shockwave. It's still available for casting, so I think he was killed before it even happened. Reckless is dead. This is a win for Gambit.
This is a win for Gambit. Soaz gonna be polymorphed up, having a bit of a dance at the back of the Nexus. He knows there's nothing that he can do to stop this win going to Gambit. They pick up the first win of week 2, and such an important one for them in the grand scheme of things. For Nick, maybe more than anyone else on this Gambit team. He finishes 2-0-8 there on a Lulu who had such a tough time in the early stages of this game, specifically against Peke, who was dominating him in lane. But Gambit showing that without LCS they can still put up the wins.
100% of the kills Nick was involved in. You compare that to his very first game with Gambit, where he was involved in 0-0-0-0 at the end of that game. This time, 2-0-8 in his team's 10 kills. That was actually a very good mid to late game from Gambit. They weighed up the Dragon versus Towers in that top lane push early on and got a strong lead from it. They do still need to work on their early game vision because Fnatic just found opportunities, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for Fnatic to really get control of that game.
And I said it a couple of times that this was the strongest we've seen Fnatic in the early to mid game in terms of decision making. They moved around the map without any real hesitation. Credit to Yellowstar for the control that he